I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Charlene. Welcome to Empowered, Life Lessons of Everyday Women.
Each episode, you are going to meet an amazing woman who has struggled through challenges both in her home life and work life and has become very successful. Meet Stephanie R. Don't be afraid to take risks. Stephanie followed her dream to become a PGA Golf Professional, working through setbacks that came in a male-dominated industry. So grab a cup of coffee, get in a comfy chair, and let's talk to Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie. We're happy to have you join us today.
Thank you.
So if you were able to go and give your 20-year-old self a little piece of advice, what might that be?
My immediate answers are don't get married young and get a government job, but those aren't really my answers. But I would say take risks when you're young, right? You're not really rooted anywhere in a location or in a relationship at that age. So I would say take risks, apply for a job you don't think you'll get, or apply for an education opportunity that you don't think, you might qualify for, and just give it a chance and explore. And if you're not happy with life the way it is, then change it. You can move, you can make decisions.
I like that. So it sounds like that's coming from a place of experience. So can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the risks that you either took or wanted to take when you were young and you didn't or did?
Yeah. Well, for one, I said it half jokingly, but yeah, I got married young, which was, we were young and dumb and we didn't really know each other well enough. So should have given that more time. But also as far as risks, as soon as I graduated college, I hopped in the car and drove south from New York to Florida for a seasonal job. I had never been there. It was sight unseen, and I just went for it. And that completely changed the course of life.
Wow. So what did you major in college?
Finance. I have a bachelor's degree in finance.
Okay. So flip the coin.
So yeah, and now I'm a golfer. I'm a golf pro in my career.
So how did you get into being a golf pro?
My mother and father both were members of the country club. My mom was really more the golfer. I think my dad just went out and had beers and played golf, but my mom actually took it seriously and was good at it. And she just really encouraged me to play. I didn't really love it at first, but when I think I was 13 or 14 when I first started, and I realized I was the only girl and it was all teenage boys. So I was very motivated to keep going back to the club and turned out to be pretty good at it. Yeah, so I played in junior events and high school golf, and then eventually made my way into college golf.
So being in golf, as you mentioned, it's very male dominated. Did you have any problems having people respect maybe the knowledge you had about golf and the training you had about golf?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm definitely guilty of having a chip on my shoulder for a long time. I think that's what drove me really through my career. So I became, trying to think back. So it was junior year in college. I moved away to Bremerton, Washington. I was dating a guy in the Navy. That's where he was stationed. So I spent my summer out there. In order to get free golf, I worked at a golf course. And that was really my first interaction with the golf business. And I was like, man, this is kind of fun. Everyone's in a good mood. Everyone's joking around. It was a pretty loose environment and I liked it. So I finished the rest of my college education, and that's when I decided to go south and get into the world of golf. I had an assistant's job right after college in Upstate, but really, other than passing my player ability test, I grew up in a country club. That's really all I knew about it. But at that time, it was good to have a female assistant because so many couples were into golf.
Right.
So to get a female assistant was a great thing. So assistant golf pro jobs were easy to get. But for me, the next level was where I wanted to go. And those were really difficult to get.
Did you find that you had a female base mainly when you were teaching? I assume you were teaching.
Yeah.
Mainly.
Yeah, for lessons for sure. Or they would come in and kind of when it came to maybe looking at merchandise or trying on clothes, they would rather speak to female, more comfortable, which made sense. But I just decided I wanted to do more than fold shirts and run ladies' day. So I continued. So I continued on my PGA education and went through their I became a PGA Class A member, then certified PGA professional, and then a master professional, which is at the time, I think I was the 6th female in the country
Oh,
to do
wow.
that. Yeah. So I just kept feeling like as long as I get my education, that will put me above and most people that I would be competing with for a
Sure,
job.
you've got the credentials, so to speak.
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you navigate those challenges?
I think just I didn't look like what people expected their golf professional to look like, right? I mean, most you expect like a
Yep.
45-year-old white guy. That's what you expect. So I didn't, I was honestly, I was a 30-year-old female. So that was like, really shocking. And even I had been at the same club for over a decade as the director of golf when I was in South Florida. And I remember getting phone calls from sales reps saying, can I speak to whoever the director of golf is? And somebody would put it on hold and it would transfer back to my phone and I would pick it up and they would say, well, I'm waiting for the director of golf to answer. I'm like, yeah, you got her. They just didn't expect it.
Good enough. That probably,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah, but
imagine that was a good thing.
Yeah. But I think that's why I've just always had that chip on my shoulder, because it's like, I don't know, you just always had to prove yourself or explain that, yeah, that's me.
That is me. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I'm sure, the experience that I've had, because I am a golfer, and when you have somebody who you are taking lessons from and they're listening to what you need, I think that makes a huge difference, male or female. I have to admit, the best coaches I've ever had were female coaches by far, because I felt like they truly did, kind of like female doctors. I truly felt like they listened to me more than what some of the males wanted me to do. They wanted me to do it a certain way, and it doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't. Yeah, we're just built differently. I think, we're physically built differently, but we're also wired mentally differently. So,
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
makes sense.
So you have worked in a private club. Have you only worked in private clubs?
First job, the one I referred to when I was out in Bremerton, Washington, that was a public course. And there I just worked at the counter and checked people in. And when I was of age, I did the 19th hole, which was kind of fun to do, beers for people after golf and take their little orders and I did beverage cart too, which was fun. So that was a public course. But once I got more serious into my career, I was at a private club in upstate New York for this summer, the first summer that I worked. And then in South Florida, it was all private clubs.
Okay.
Who has been your biggest influence? And another question that kind of goes along with that is, who has been your biggest supporter within the industry?
Great questions. My biggest influence, I guess, would be my mom always kind of pushed me to just do what you want to do, what you're passionate about. I remember my dad, when I said that I was going to become a golf pro, he's like, then why did you go to college to get a finance degree? Kind of short-sighted, right? But I think people go through that. He didn't really understand, which of course finance has a lot to do with being the director of a department.
I was going to say, you can use it a lot in what you're doing.
Yeah. And I remember saying to him, well, it's not going to expire. I think it's okay that I got a finance degree. And if I ever want to go into that world, it's there, But my mom definitely was the one that pushed me to, get into what I wanted to do and what I enjoyed doing. So, and that did, they always say, that makes going to work a lot easier.
It does.
When you're passionate about it.
And your biggest supporter in the industry would be?
I had a mentor who I worked for at a club. I was at one facility for about 6 years. And then I was just ready to make a jump. And he didn't, again, I remember saying I wanted to go to be a certified professional. And he didn't understand and said, I don't know how that makes you a better assistant. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not trying to be an assistant forever.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. Yeah, that's what you're up against. So I left that job shortly after and went to work for another pro. And I said to that pro, look, I will make you look great. I'll make your ladies happy. I'll fold your shirts, but I want to be a head pro. And he said, okay, we'll do what we can to get you there. And he was a master professional. And he was the link that got me to my first director of golf job.
Wow, that's great. So part of it was networking as well. So what gets involved with becoming a master professional golf?
You have to be, at the time I did it, you had to be a PGA professional for 8 years. And then it's almost like, I think it took me 2 more years of, it's almost like becoming I don't know, like you're doing your thesis for becoming a doctor almost.
Okay.
So you have to do every detail of your operation. You have to prove that you know all aspects of the operation. You go through the PGA. Other PGA master professionals are the ones that judge the work that you do. So it's a pretty lengthy process.
So it's not a test. It's basically proving your work history and your process and
Proving that I would be a person that you could contact if you needed help. That makes me a master in my operation.
wow.
Like I would be somebody that someone from anywhere in the country could call and say, hey, this is what I have going on. What thoughts do you have? So just basically proving that you are running a big enough operation that would make you an expert.
I love that. I had no idea.
Right.
So I'm happy to know that.
Yeah. Oh, and you have to pass a rules of golf exam, which for me was the biggest hurdle. You have to get a 70 or better on the exam. And the first time I took it, I had a 67. You can only take it once a year.
Oh,
If you fail it for that year, you have to wait a whole other calendar year.
And you
And
pray
I
they don't
passed it,
change the
passed it.
they change the rules every couple years. Rules
Yes.
change.
They do.
So,
I ended up hitting it right on the number. Whew.
oh my goodness.
But thankfully, it was a pass fail situation.
so can you go through some of the responsibilities of being a director of golf? Because I'm not a big golfer. I've played golf, but I am definitely not.
Yeah. So, sure. For anyone that's like listening that isn't part of the golf world, usually a golf course has a golf pro. And I think from the outside looking in, you think that person just kind of gives lessons and hangs around the golf shop and greets you and checks you in. But really, we manage and train the staff. You have HR obligations with that, of course, like bringing staff in, making sure they pass drug screens and things like that. Train them up, do their schedules. I bought the merchandise for the golf shop as well, which is about $200,000 to $300,000 a year that you're bringing in merchandise, pricing, selling, displaying. Running events, putting together the golf schedule for the season, which is kind of like putting a puzzle together, coordinating with the food and beverage team to make sure that a 9-hole golf with dinner after runs smoothly for the members and the timing is right. Looking at financials, of course, like making sure that we're performing the way we should to budget, year to date versus budget with expenses and revenues and payroll. So there's a lot of different stuff. And then teaching, which is a small part of it, but that's what people think we do all day, I think. And golfing is a very small part of it too. We don't get to golf all the time.
The golf people that I've dealt with at different clubs that I've belonged to, I don't see them getting a chance to play golf very much.
No,
That's gotta be frustrating.
Yeah, you don't get into the golf industry thinking that you're going to play golf every day. Like, definitely get a normal job if you want to play golf all the time.
So what has been the best part of your job? If you could pick out one thing and say, this is the part that just, makes me happy.
Yeah, the part that makes me happy is the people. People I work alongside, but also the people we serve. It always felt like a family, especially my most recent club that I just left back in April. I was there for 11 years as a director and about 14 years in total. And that felt like family. Those members felt like family. So that's the relationships that you build, that you really appreciate. And that's why you come to work. You look forward to seeing everybody.
So golf is a really social activity, and you're involved with a lot of things, especially being in a private club.
Mhm.
How do you separate your social life with your professional life?
Yeah, that's a good question. We always had sort of an understanding that you don't ever want to do for one or two members what you wouldn't do for all. So, like, for example, somebody was having a birthday party and I had been invited, and I just don't think you can say yes to that because you have to say yes to everybody. So I feel like there's a line there that you have to sort of keep. That way everybody is treated fairly. You don't ever want to give the perception that you're favoring people, which is tough because you want to be part of their world, and it's flattering that they want you to be as well. But you just don't ever want to kind of feel like you're picking certain people over others. That doesn't go over well at a private club.
I think that applies to any job, honestly, in the service industry. You have to be careful of how you may overstep your relationship. And it's easy to do that when you feel like they're part of your family too,
Yeah.
but it's also, you've got to keep that professionalism of, this is a job and I'm here to serve, but I'm not here to be necessarily the best friend, even though I may be friends with them. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what would you say has been your biggest life lesson?
My biggest life lesson. That's a tough one. So I'm going through kind of a transition right now. I kind of just said I moved from this position that I had for a really long time in South Florida, and work was great, work life was great, but we just weren't loving living in South Florida anymore. And we hemmed and hawed for a few years trying to figure out like how do we leave jobs that are paying us well and that we like, but we don't want to live here anymore. We don't want to live here forever. What do we do? How do we kind of get unstuck? And I guess that's why, like in the beginning, I said, if you're not happy, you've got to just make the change, because we were unhappy there for a few years and finally decided to take a lower title job, a less paying job, but the job that would get us to the area of the country that we wanted to be,
Oh,
which is a big change, right? It's a risky thing to do. And it's scary.
So it sounds to me like your life lesson would be getting unstuck. It's like the idea of not being, you said that at the beginning, when you're
Yeah,
21, it's a lot easier to kind of say, just take a chance and move.
for sure.
Now you're like, middle age, right? And
Right.
you're unsticking yourself again. One of the things that my husband and I talked about, even with our finances, is like there's a certain point that you have to kind of just reel it in. But until we retired and we're not income based, we decided we weren't going to reel it in, which a lot of people would have. I mean, just because they said, "Oh, I have a great job. Why would I leave?" So
Right.
good for you for doing that.
Yeah,
did you scope out that part of the country ahead of time to know that you wanted to live there?
we did. Yeah, we had vacation. So we relocated to, in our minds, it was going to be Western North Carolina, North Georgia, like in the mountains, East Tennessee. We wanted to be kind of in the mountains. And so we had vacationed up here a couple years ago and just found the people to be really nice. The climate, we wanted all four seasons again, but not like back up in New York. It's a moderate version of all four seasons. And
You want to see the snow, but you want it to melt too.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we had done some research, and we did, it was definitely not an impulsive thing. We had looked at several different positions. We had applied for several jobs over the last couple of years, and we just sort of were waiting for the right thing to come up. In fact, my other half had applied for a position in Chapel Hill, which is, when he went up to do like one of the final interviews, he's like, yeah, that's way busier than we thought. It's not mountains. It just wasn't what we wanted. So I was like, well, we're not going to just uproot life for the wrong thing.
Exactly.
We wanted it. We had a very specific area and lifestyle that we were looking for.
So most of our listeners are not necessarily professional golfers, and we are trying to help everyone in business and in balanced life. Is there any like final advice you would like to give to our listeners to help them in that you found just in your life?
Yeah, I mean, a couple good, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. A lot of times people are trying to force a decision or a response, or like even us right now, I keep finding myself like, I want to get settled. So I want to like buy a house and get really get our roots down, but it's just not time yet. And I have to keep reminding myself, like, the right thing will lead, it will show its head. Like we'll find the right way, and we'll figure it out in time. I just can't force it. And then gratitude, I think, has really changed life for me. Just having an outlook of gratitude, because being from a country club, a lot of people, their day gets ruined over the really smallest,
Things.
meaningless thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
it took 30 minutes longer to play golf today. Like, oh my gosh, that's not a big deal, right? So gratitude, just seeing the good in everything, even in the difficult things. Maybe you don't have the job you want, but you have a job. There's a lot of people that don't.
True.
Maybe you can't go out to dinner the way you want, but you can afford groceries. Like, just finding the ways to feel grateful has really changed my outlook.
I like that. I really do like that because I think people lose sight of that. And especially you have worked in country clubs, right? There is a different level of expectation, I think, that some people have versus if you had worked at a public course.
Yeah, and there is an entitlement that comes, which, maybe it is earned being that you're a country club member, you have a stature and everything else, but I guess as being part of the workers of that, you just see things a little differently. And it does matter where you work and who you work alongside. And I have been really lucky to work with really great members. My other half, though, he had a really tough membership that was just thankless, and it really beat him up all the time.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, so it really does. I mean, that's why I say, like, be grateful. And even for him, it's like, look, you're making great money. You have a job to go to. These are things to be grateful for. you know,
But it also makes it harder to get up every day and
Oh,
go
yeah.
into work if you don't feel like you're being appreciated.
Yeah, he started getting the Sunday scaries, and I was like, "That's it, like, we've gotta make a change, we can't live like this."
So good for you for making the change. And Stephanie, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm hoping that our listeners can find, you did have a finance job. You went to college and you did get that finance degree. So you
Just not in the
Yeah.
way most people would think about it.
and good
So,
things.
Life took a bit of a left-hand turn, but it does,
Yep.
whatever, that's nothing really goes as planned, you've gotta kinda roll with it, I think.
that's right.
Thank
That's
you
right.
so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you.
To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Empowered Life Lessons of Everyday Women. We would really appreciate if you could leave us a rating or a review. If you have any challenges or questions you are facing, we want to hear from you as we value your input and suggestions. And if you have a compelling story or life lesson you would like to share, please connect with us at empoweredlifelessons@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, other social media platforms, or visit us at empoweredlifelessons.com.
In our next episode, meet Jasmine B. Jasmine knew she wanted to make a difference in the healthcare industry, but not just as a healthcare worker. After experiencing the difficulties of helping her grandmother and realizing the disconnect once patients leave the hospital, she founded Navi Nurses. Learn how Jasmine is making a difference in both the lives of patients and caregivers.